Another female powerhouse of women's rights, Baroness Kennedy, who jests around the globe preaching the underdeveloped world on women's rights, publishes books on the same, gives endless interviews on the subject. Many victims of family courts have written to her, including myself, so she's very familiar with the crimes, yet she has never, as far as I know, publicly demanded that we get a voice about the bloodbath by her feet. She's one of the world's most prolific pedagogues on the rights of women who did not object to Theresa May rejecting the call of 200 plus professionals for a family court inquiry. Well, I believe she has secured a British inquiry into women's rights abuses in Afghanistan and Iran. Again, Muslim world. Yet another inquiry. While each attempt of the professionals campaigning to expose this secret world in the West has been declined. Although, in my opinion, inquiries are a whitewash, and the chance for apparently the relatives, adult children, lawyers of certain judges and top politicians to be the lawyers in the inquiries and earn millions, according to some campaigners, I don't know, that they rip off the public purse really well, but nobody ever gets punished. Trials, proper trials, and imprisonments of those who destroy lives is far more just and the right thing to do. But who will allow that? But they don't even allow an inquiry, any whitewash. But a series of inquiries into the rights of women abroad in poor countries have been permitted, although they deserve protection as well, but not manipulative hypocrisy. As for the UK, she demands that politicians leave the judges alone to continue to independently deliver first-class justice and the rule of law without the pressure of the parliament. Shocking! So, she staunchly demands that everything stay as it is, knowing very well about this form of genocide, just like Hale, Butler Sloss, Theresa May, et al. Now, whose mouthpiece may she be? So that she abets the annihilation of women and children in her own back garden, while demanding that no one probe into the world of the anarchic and unaccountable judiciary. What powerful undercurrents does she and all of them swim in? And why? Despite thousands of campaigners demanding these egregious crimes of serious child abuse and human rights abuses, actually crimes against humanity, for The Hague, be exposed and stopped for many decades, and all the media knowing about it, do you know what the top judges have now done? They have, according to thousands of victims online, raised the cost of court transcripts from about £30 per hearing to £100 per hour, knowing that hardly any of the victims, pushed into extreme poverty and depression by their crimes, many now dependent on their own parents, can afford them, meaning they will never be able to obtain the evidence of the judge's abuse of power and unprofessional conduct, of their bias towards one party, likely the one who bribes them. According to the victims, enhancing the propensity of the most sociopathic and corrupt among the court staff for evildoing, while depriving their victims of the right to the evidence for the crimes within those courts that have destroyed their and their children's lives. It means that they want to continue to abuse power, to continue their illegalities. As a good judge who acts in adherence to the law, national and international, has nothing to hide, and to continue the destruction of the very foundations of the society: family life, morality, the right to religion and justice and protection, I presume, as a destabilized, poor, vulnerable and depressed society is easier to manipulate, use and control. I have posted a few of my videos made with my very rickety IT skills on YouTube, and one is on the most famous of Western first ladies, who are all big proponents of women's rights and consequently filthy rich, and on how they all have known about the family court atrocities probably since they started their normally legal careers. So that caliber of people, when they were first ladies and apparently had loud voices for women, they were written to by huge numbers of the campaigners pleading for help. I have been told that they have ignored them ever since. As you can see, they've never given us a voice. Instead, they inhabit both the list of the most powerful women's rights voices and of the richest female celebrities. Not to mention that in the Western countries that have had prime ministers and presidents, vice presidents, and female rights ministers who were or are female, the atrocities of family courts exist in abundance, like allegedly in New Zealand, among many. Now let's hear this.
To be here with you today among women who have blazed the trail for so many other women. Dr. Ebadi, for decades you have fought for women's rights in Iran. They tried to silence you.
Well, haven't I been silenced and threatened by many senior judges tens of times, and even summoned to the High Court by the President and told to be quiet, as I had the right but they had the might. Sir Mark Potter. And twice I was threatened with having my children maybe taken into care as they were starting apparently the proceedings, as I had notified the world, meaning that you are mentally unstable as you try to expose what they've done to you. And they are compos mentis. And thousands of battered mothers without custody have been incarcerated without a jury around the Western world.
And the whole world stands in awe of the women of Iran. More and more women are choosing to defy the prohibitions of a regime that does not see them as equal.
They are all of us. They are my daughters, and they are you. I cannot wait to see all the doors we will open, all the fortunes and futures we transform for girls across the globe.
Let it be that human rights are women's rights and women's rights are human rights once and for all.
She's here to talk about a new book called We Are Afghan Women, Voices of Hope. She wrote the introduction and launched the efforts.
What's the point? Let's fight because it's the right thing to do.
My guest today is Marissa Kurma, and Marissa serves as project manager for Middle East Special Initiatives at the Wilson Center. One of those special initiatives is a terrific blog, and in the most recent collection of articles.
The Wilson Center has known about the atrocities of family courts for many, many, many years. I've written to them, to almost every single person there, an expert of various human rights, in detail. They've never replied, yet they jet around the globe, I understand, mainly to the Middle East and Africa, and report on dismal women's rights there. Even on family courts there, which is ironic and makes me very, very cross.
Inspired by the theme of International Women's Day, we have lots to talk about. Many great contributors.
Right, it is a chicken and egg situation. Well, I think most of the women leaders in the North Africa region, there are some that believe that changing laws is essential because there are many laws, particularly when it comes to the family code and the family laws, that are still quite discriminatory against women. So this is essential because you need the law to protect women's rights.
Do we? Or that is only valid for the Middle East?
But at the same time, you need to ensure that these laws are being implemented. And sometimes, the barrier is a cultural mindset. Most of these countries are conservative countries. The cultural context is conservative.
Now, regarding the current climate stirred up all around us in Britain, let me give you my unbiased, multifaceted take, as all the voices need to be heard, and that no culture would tolerate certain societal climates. I do understand the impact that the sheer volume of new immigrants has had on the groaning infrastructure that is bursting at the seams, as well as the ubiquitous, genuine destruction of the British culture that, I believe, does not come from any of us average immigrants, not the extremists, but maybe, and many say that, from the very top, the so-called elites. That is my opinion and that of many. I understand the fear of the British native population or of being simply taken over by a foreign culture that may misuse their hospitality, as throughout history, since humanity began, in general, various immigrant groups led by psychotic, power-thirsty extremists have often virtually occupied their host countries, either by immigrating in huge numbers until they take over, by a sky-high birth rate, or, if they are wealthy, by bribing the indigenous ruling classes across all the sectors, who very eagerly sell their countries for large sums of personal background cash, as almost everyone is on sale, let's be honest. And recently, according to some much cleverer people than me, with real estate that they say also often employs bribe offered to the indigenous people in power, people on sale, and most people in power are on sale anywhere in the world, let's be honest, and may buy vast swathes of a country until they virtually become its owners. Empty, sick, deviant, delusional extremists from all cultures, whose only fuel is power and money, as their egos are inordinately enormous, and who do not have a heart, decency, and morality, held by the indigenous ruthless sellers of their own souls, many believe, and the lives of their countrymen and women for immense riches on the sly, in most ethnic groups, have always strived for stealth occupation and taking over their host countries, which should never be allowed. But extremists aside, vast majority many of believe that the ruling classes should stop the hypocrisy and the deviant psyops, the gagging of the victims and the media, stop starting various wars around the world that the public pay for, the serfs, engendering refugees, stop destroying those regions and the lives there, leveraging their resources and weaponry profits, and the stream of refugees will diminish. You should simply become human beings. Many know that the future immigration should be controlled. And stop distorting and twisting to fit in with someone else's sick agenda, maybe because they're paying you or whatever, or you're brainwashed, whatever. As innocent people, not extremists, are targeted, abused, and some, we hear, Asian women in Britain even raped on the street in broad daylight by maniacs who could not wait for what they perceive to be the green light for hatred. If you do not care about the women's rights for all the women in your own country, you do not care genuinely about women's rights in any ethnic group. Like all the editors in the British media, Camilla Tominey, the editor of the Daily Telegraph, has known about family courts probably since she became a journalist. I've written to her quite a few times, as far as I know. And I'm certain hundreds of other activists have, as well as Women's Aid, etc. And has she ever given us a voice? Even 16 years ago, when on a plane, I bumped into a BBC producer who had been to my country to investigate women's rights. And we chatted, and I said, what about women's rights in Britain, in family courts? And she said, oh, we know about it, but it is a no-go zone, as the judges had gagged the media.
And also Sarah Pochin has also asked a question previously about Sharia law. Here she is speaking to the Minister for Courts and Legal Services, Labour's Sarah Sackman.
Does the new Secretary of State for Justice recognise Sharia law and Sharia courts in the United Kingdom? Yes or no?
Sharia law forms no part of the law of England and Wales, but in common with Christian, Jewish and other courts of faith where people choose to put themselves before those councils, that's part of the religious tolerance that is an important British value.
That British value was not bestowed upon me when I was in family courts. My right to religion was withdrawn. And my husband marrying me while hiding a bunch of secret mistresses of several years each. They didn't know about me, so they were also his victims. We were all virtually human trafficked into something we had never consented to. His behavior of marrying me in a church and producing a child while womanizing all around was treated as a virtue, and I was told to not mention his human trafficking on me and forcing me into an open marriage on his side, destroying my life, as it was normal. Is that a British value? Is that how you treat your spouse and children? Your family? Is that a family court, not a brothel?
How the debate around Sharia law and courts has been closed down, probably out of legitimate fears of accusations of racism and Islamophobia, that actually what we're talking about here fundamentally are women's rights. Fiaz's point is quite a salient one for the only woman in this conversation, that when you look at rabbinical courts or Catholic tribunals or indeed Sharia courts, it's a patriarchy. They're all dominated by men making decisions on behalf of women.
Yes, they need the women in power like the ones in the West that I've just talked about. Self-serving mouthpieces of the worst of men in power above them for titular decoration, like Christmas tree ornaments, there to create the illusion of women's rights.
But I suppose I'm saying that none of the leaders or the elders of these different religions are female, and that may be problematic. Second of all, from what I've looked into of Sharia law, yes, women are disadvantaged when it comes to divorce. They're actually disadvantaged when it comes to marriage. And Fiaz has raised a good point about the secrecy of these councils and courts.
And you are a mother. Camilla, are you joking? You know very well how secret Western family courts are. Your hypocrisy is an affront to us victims. Hundreds of thousands of lives of women and men as well, and children have been destroyed in secret family courts all around you, and you know it. And what have you done about it? It is our lives.
So when it comes to Jewish courts or indeed Catholic tribunals, they have to sign up to the Arbitration Act. It's a piece of legislation that ensures that they are working in tandem stroke parallel with English law. Sharia courts and councils haven't had a tendency to do that, and therefore they may remain quite unaccountable and frankly shadowy.
Exactly like Western family courts, and all of you in journalism have known that. It is an open secret. Shadowy, murky, opaque, criminal.
Well, and also I want to add a critical difference between, say, Christian canon law and Sharia is that Christian canon law might contradict civil law, but you're free to walk away from it. It doesn't bind you to stick with it. So Catholics don't recognise gay marriage. They don't recognise remarriage after divorce.
Really? Yet online people are saying that the Catholic Church in Britain weds promiscuous, adulterous politicians to their mistresses, politicians who have cheated on their wives when they were pregnant and with young children, which is horrific domestic abuse. Believe me, I'm scarred for life. Allegedly in several church marriages, serially cheated, produced out of wedlock and children for the bin, and Catholic priests or bishops or whatever laughing about it and wedding them again to their mistresses. To the Christian doctrine, just like all the bishops and archbishops in the Anglican Church, first female archbishop ever, who have all known about the family courts and their antichrist, highly consequential banditry for many, many years too. I've written to them all. I'm certain alongside many others, have done what the Sermon of the Mount, Jesus' main speech on the ethics of Christian life, instructs them to do, which is to always put inner righteousness before any external laws that others impose upon them.